Quick! Someone who hasn't seen JoJo before, tell me what's going on in this screenshot! Welcome, people of Earth and elsewhere, to the channel where the content is spam and I am Crackers. Today's spam is my update on how I'm feeling about the anime adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable. As a forward, I'd like to say that there have been a few things that I'd say I'm not very impressed by this time around, but overall the hype train is still very real. Oh, and in this case, some people might not have watched all these episodes, so there may be some mild spoilers as I jump around to the major points I want to get to, but nothing too bad, I should think, just in case, though, you have been warned. Starting at the start, as predicted, we have a new opening sequence, which I find to be both more and less fitting to the series than the previous one, Crazy, Noisy, Bizarre Town. Now, I say this because there are essentially two components for anime openings, and those are the visuals and the audio. Visually speaking, there's a lot more going on and to see when you're watching Chase. Things like foreshadowing and symbolism are present in droves, whereas the first opening was more so just very pretty to watch, as we waited what seemed like an eternity to see when Echoes was going to show up. On the contrary, I found the song itself to be somewhat lacking. Now, as far as songs go, I'm not going to say that Chase is a bad song, but as I listen to it, I find myself wondering why it doesn't sound like a JoJo opening. I don't know, maybe it just feels a little bit like a standard anime opening, and not what I expected to get out of this particular series. So I guess while I think Chase looks more like a JoJo theme, I still have to say that Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town sounds more like a JoJo theme. It's still too early to judge, though. After all, in the next few weeks, we'll be seeing one more opening sequence to Diamond is Unbreakable that will hopefully blow both of the other ones out of the water. Only time will tell. Now, onto the actual episodes. I'd like to point out my surprise again at the fact that David Production is making the entirety of JoJo Part 4 into a single season of 39 episodes. As stated in the previous overview video, I didn't see how they were going to be able to do it, seeing as the previous arc, Stardust Crusaders, had 48 episodes split into 2 seasons. Part 4 has quite a few more chapters than Part 3. I guess now I'm seeing how they managed to do it, and it seems that the word cramming would be the best way to describe it. I'll continue more along this train of thought after I decide to review the whole series, but for now, I'm just going to give the best example of cramming that comes to mind at this point, as I move into the negative features of these particular episodes. Cinderella, episode number 20. Given the nature of JoJo, I feel like a lot of fans, especially those who were exclusively watching the anime, were a bit surprised by the entire feeling surrounding it. I know, according to the comments on Crunchyroll, that it definitely wasn't what some people signed on for when they were watching it. As someone who has already read the manga, I can honestly say that I was looking forward to this part, as it's actually one of my favorite subplots to the series, and is just that. It's different. However, I couldn't help but feel a bit let down when I was watching it. While I did manage to predict the whole fiasco would only take up one episode, I was actually a little bit surprised by how fast the pacing was and how rushed it felt. In addition to that, I'd like to point out that the point of wanting to see a manga get an anime adaptation is because you want to see things, I don't know, maybe animated? I was kind of upset by the amount of stagnant imagery, and particularly when watching Cinderella work, which was something I was actually really looking forward to seeing in motion. They didn't leave anything out, thank goodness, but the whole thing felt just a little bit underwhelming. Backtracking a bit, last time I updated my thoughts on the series, I made a conjecture in the description on how the arcs would be distributed over the course of 39 episodes. And I'm happy to say that, other than the swap around of Cinderella and the Duang incident, yeah, you know the one, I was pretty darn close. I can't say my predictions were perfect, but up until Adam Heartfather and meeting Kosaku Kawajiri were also mashed into one episode, all the numbers added up quite nicely. And I'll be putting things together and adjusting my prediction this week accordingly, so you can all read that in the description below. A semi-negative comment I'd like to throw in here is about episode 21 as well. because I knew something felt kind of off when I was watching it. As it turns out, this particular episode was animated by a different production team, so that's what was putting all of us off. I know I'm not the only one who noticed. Luckily, any doubts put into our heads by that episode were quickly swept away by episode 22, which was completely worth all of the hype that was surrounding it. Can I just say, at last? Now, everyone knows what was being alluded to since the first minute and a half of episode 1 with all the dismembered hands. Let the puns begin. Yes, Yoshikage Kira has finally made his way into the series, and the wait has been well worth it. And for those of you wondering, yes, he is in fact the primary villain of Part 4. Like I said at the beginning, other than a few complaints I have to say about that, Part 4 hype has been being nicely delivered. Once again, I was surprised on how the anime made some parts I found not as enthralling in the manga so much more interesting. Case in point, the hunting episode where Jotaro and Josuke go rat shooting. And the introductions of other characters you might not have originally thought were going to be that important, such as Rohan and Reimi, were handled excellently as well. Those being a couple of the other exciting points I was personally looking forward to. Now, I've said just about all that I wanted to about this third or so of the anime, but I can't leave off without bringing up what I thought was the climax of these episodes, the encounter with Sheer Heart Attack. Yeah, it's good and bad, but mostly good. My only problem is that I felt a bit disillusioned with the stand itself, that is to say Killer Queen's second bomb. It may just be because I have read the manga first and the whole thing seems so much scarier and fast-paced, because sometimes that's just how you read manga, but I never imagined that the turtle tank cat bomb thing was going to be moving so slowly. Maybe that's just me. There are rarely times when I want to say that reading such a scene was better in the manga, because I don't like to make the comparison, but I felt the sense of urgency was kind of lost in the animation, so that was kind of disappointing. That being said, Echoes Act 3! More hype and more happy times. Allow me one more moment just to say, Jotaro beating down Yoshikage to the point where he resembles another well-known Kira sprawled on the ground in a puddle of blood has to be my favorite part of this anime by far. It was amazing. Okay, now I've said my piece. Chase looks like a JoJo opening, but doesn't really sound like one. Cinderella is my first and foremost example of how rushed this anime actually is in places. Episode 21 was janky to look at, but that was all fixed in episode 22, and everything else is hype up the wazoo. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where the doing is beautiful, and the only place where a game of rock, paper, scissors could be taken so seriously. The next time I update this overview will be after the series finale when I decide to make a full review. Thanks for sticking around if you managed to watch this video up until this point. I hope you enjoyed it. Have any thoughts on things I talked about or anything you think I missed? Comment below and I'd love to know what you think and start a discussion. Consider subscribing to this channel for more content like this in the future, or at least follow SpamCrackers on Twitter, where you should get all the updates as well. Oh, and there's a link to the DeviantArt page below where you can find the picture that I have been drawing this whole time. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video. Ciao! Hype, 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 hype! Alien is showing up in the next episode! Wait, I said I'd make a video about that too, didn't I? Well, shoot!